Welcome back to Meditated Art. Today I am doing another winter scene. You can see a little bit of the image on the bottom right. The thing that drew me to this photo was how it was composed, where the left half of the image depicts the sunrise. So the colors are very warm as the sun is shining through the trees. And on the other side of the path, furthest away from the sun, it's all in blues and cooler colors. And I just really liked the contrast of the image. So the first thing I am doing is painting the sky. You may notice, depending on artists that you follow, that I've been seeing a lot of almost like an undercoat for the painting, and it's usually in a really weird color that isn't prominent at all in the actual image itself. So it might be like a burnt orange underpainting for an image that is mostly in the blues. And it's absolutely fascinating, and I'm going to have to try it one of these days. So this is kind of like that idea, because in the photo you can see the sky poking through the trees, and it's just not realistic or time consuming. I wonder what happened there. I think this is where I have had issues in the past and thought it was recording and it wasn't. But as you can see, I painted the blue on the right side of the painting. So now we are going in with the foliage. So I'm going to build up layers. So this foliage is going to be in the orange colors as the light hits it. And I've sped it up because I'm just tapping the brush to create the colors. And I'm going in with a bit of the yellow, mostly the orange. Just trying to figure out where the light is going to be hitting it to give it that warmth color. And it's quite random, and so here I'm just putting in the tree trunks of the trees in the background. So again, with the orange and the yellow, the warmth of the sun coming through the trees. I'm using the flat brush for this part. It just makes it very nice. This is the 1/2 inch flat brush, and it makes nice straight lines. And now I'm going in with a darker color. I don't have the color name, but it's probably like a burnt umber or something like that. And so these are going to be the trees that are a little bit farther away from the sun, closer to the trail. And just building up depth and that. And again, it's pretty random. And now just coming in with some of the darker rusty orange. And I believe I am still using the flat brush. Yes, 1/2 inch flat. Just adding some ground foliage. So here I added a little bit of purple. And the reason I did that is because we're going to be transitioning into the cool side with the blue. Now just adding a little bit more blue to the purple. The brush isn't completely clean either, so you get some nice blending. So here we go again with the leaves on the cool side. Just randomly adding the blue. Just making it a little darker the further to the ground that we go. And just going to speed this up a little bit. I think I was adding a little bit more of the darker blue. And just like we did on the other side, we're adding more trees and branches. I think my paint's still a little bit wet here, so it's always good to wait until one level is completely dry before continuing on to the other. Sometimes it can be beneficial though. The flat brush can make some fairly fine lines, which is good for the branches and everything, but sometimes requires a couple of passes for the actual tree trunk and such. And just more and more branches and trees. And some darker foliage. The tapping for doing the foliage is a good way to add visual interest into your painting, because it will get, some areas will have a higher density of the paint and other areas will have a lower density, so you can see colors through, and it just adds more visual interest as opposed to having everything the same color. And just adding the snowy pathway. And unlike snow that's in an open field or something like that, the snow in a forest won't be smooth. Um, it has critters and birds and that in the forest to disrupt the snow, so it'll very rarely be perfectly smooth. So I use a similar technique with the snow as I did with the foliage, because I don't want it all perfect or anything like that. So I'm just adding shadows and the light shining through the trees on the left side in the warmer colors, and deeper shadows in the blue on the right side. I think I realized here that I got the angle just a little bit wrong and the color, but I'll fix it a little bit later. And here I'm using the mop brush, which is quite good for doing the snow. Just adding a little bit more paint. So the trees on the left, there's a bit of a ridge. Oh, I'm adding purple. Okay. In the snow, so you don't actually see the trunks. So it's a bit of a more defined line in the snow. And you'll see what I'm getting at on the right side. I just needed to paint the snow at this point. I'm just trying to fix the angle of the shadows coming out. That's a bit better. And just fixing that ridge a little bit. And just adding some blue shadows to tie in together the two sides. So on the left, I mentioned that there's a bit of a ridge in the snow. And on the right side, there isn't. So I'm building more depth with having some trees coming closer to your point of view. So you can see the trunks and the base of the tree in the snow. And that helps with your depth of field, showing that they're a little bit closer. So for this color, it's a deep brown and with a bit of the deep blue. So they'll stand out a little bit better. And I have learned that going from the top down is a little bit easier for creating the trees, because you can press a little bit harder so the trunk will be thicker at the bottom. The one nice thing with the flat brush is you can create all sorts of little branches just by tapping the edge of the brush onto the paper. So it creates these little branches that are really quite effortless, but do add more to the painting. And just adding a little bit more trees in the darker color on the warm side. Using the same color as the right side. And just more depth, more trees, more branches. I have to admit, this is one of the reasons why painting these type of trees can be a little bit challenging because of all the line work, all the lines from the branches and the trunks and everything like that. It can be extremely tedious. So here I'm just adding a few highlights for the trees that are closest to the warm side. And I'm using the 1/4 inch flat brush. And just this one little detail really adds a lot. And I'm just going to do a little bit of highlights and that to the trees on the warm side. And there we go. We are basically done. And now one of my favorite parts, though definitely a lot more challenging with these nails, the removing of the tape. There we go. We're almost done. There we go. Thank you so much for watching.